When Stephen Foster walked through 3 years of silence, he felt both helpless and hopeless. He could not understand why this was happening. Then he realized it was not happening to him, but for him. As a result, he has emerged stronger and wiser, with a passion to help you experience the same. Welcome to Never Ever Give Up Hope.
Have you ever felt like giving up, quitting, throwing in the towel? Welcome to Never Ever Give Up Hope featuring Carol Graham. She's an author, health coach, and motivational speaker. Backed into a corner multiple times in her life, Carol shares with you stories on how she overcame some of the toughest obstacles a person can go through in life, but refused to give up hope. Rather than admit defeat, an opportunity was presented, and it involves each and every one of you. Carol will feature spectacular guests who will share their messages of hope, encouragement, and their inspiration to prove why life's adversities only make you stronger. And now, welcoming the host of the show, here's Carol Graham.
With me today is Stephen Foster. He graduated with a BA in Music and Education from Morgan State University. He has founded two companies, B3 Community and Your Next Step. He is here today to share his story. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm excited and just pleased to be here on today. Thank you
I
so much.
agree. I have read your story and I know that my audience will resonate with it. And so my first question to you is, before your success, you faced numerous hardships and setbacks. In the midst of despair and loss in 2018 that marked a pivotal year in your life. Your marriage dissolved, your church slipped away, and you lost a promising book deal. So start from the beginning and tell us what happened.
Sure. So it's kind of funny even listening back to that. Um, you know,
Hmm.
when a lot of people hear about COVID, it was always funny for me, and I was like, man, COVID hit you guys, but my life was in paralyzed, and I felt like I was already behind the eight ball. And so in 2018, things for me, it took a drastic turn. And even where you say, now being successful, I actually thought that I was living the dream at the time. I was pastoring a thriving church. I had a marriage that I thought that was healthy. I was traveling and speaking, and I thought that life couldn't get better. I thought it was getting better because I continued to grow and develop, but I was like, man, this is the life. All to find out that one day the church that I was building and developing, it all slipped away. And then after that, then trying wrestling internally to figure out like, hey, who am I? I get a phone call one day and it was like, hey, I deserve to be happy too. Marriage began to dissolve. And then even speaking became hard for me. I didn't want to travel anymore. I didn't want to talk to people anymore. And a book deal that at that time I knew that could have easily grossed $1 million was dissolved. And all of that happened in a matter of about 8 months. And it was a really dark place for me. It was a dark place
Wow.
because I thought that, man, everything was going well. Why would all of these things just be taken away from me at that very moment? And so it was rough. It was a place that even put me in a place of depression and just asking myself the question like, is it even worth going on anymore? And so it was a rough journey and a rough time for me in that space of time.
So how did you turn that around?
Yeah, so in that, I first off, and I think sometimes we can easily in those moments play the blame game. But I'm thankful just for in that moment I did a internal some internal work, and that's something that the first thing we should always do is look internally and see like, hey, how can I um do better, or what am I causing to the situation? And in that moment, I just began to do some self-reflecting. And as I was doing some self-reflecting, I began to get this just inner joy and inner peace around this concept. And it's kind of been my mantra. And it's also what I wrote a book on. But the mantra is that you're right on schedule. And at that time, even if you say that to someone, it's like, how is that even possible? Like, do you see all of the things that happened to me? And in that time, doing an internal inventory myself, I begin to see, no, Stephen, you are right on schedule. Because sometimes in life, you have to take a setback. And if you even look at like just gardening, you have to prune things so that they can continue to grow. You have to cut some things away so that it can move forward. And even if you look at the analogy of a bow and arrow, the only way it can propel forward faster is it has to be pulled back. And so in this space in my life, I begin to hear that mantra, you're right on schedule. Yes, you had a plan. Yes, you thought that this would be like this by this time, but you are right on schedule. And every day I will wake up and say, Stephen, you may not be where you plan to be, but know today you're right on schedule.
As you were going through this initially, how did you personally deal with the guilt factor?
Personally, like if the honest truth about it is that it really took me to a dark place where I literally and so I am a person that loves going and being around people. And so literally for about a whole year, I literally was quiet. I didn't go out. I kind of just stayed to myself. And, it kind of was almost like a 3-year period, even in that this whole quiet, silent space. But some of it was healthy reflecting. But in the beginning, like I was staying home, and I was really cutting myself off from all of my contacts and every person I knew, and even had thoughts of saying like, man, today should be the last day that I live and move forward, because it was so heavy on me.
So, again, in reflection, what would you have done differently? You were in a place that you possibly didn't know what to do, but looking back with the resources that you had at the time, because many people are probably in a similar situation, what would you suggest that they do? Do you suggest they take that time off like you did and reflect, or get help, or what would your answer be to them?
Yeah, so I think it's two sides to it. I think the first side is, I think, and this is super important, especially in those times. I think there's a concept that no one should do life alone. And I think it's so important to be a part of healthy communities. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I think it's super important to be a part of healthy communities, because this was another thing that as I begin to become healthier, it helped the journey and speed up the process. But at the same time, I do believe that there has to be some internal work that each person has to do. And I kind of keyed this concept even during this time. And I wrote this in my book. It basically talks about I had to wake up every single day and eat pie. Every single day I woke up, I would say, hey, Stephen, you're right on schedule. And because you're right on schedule, how are you going to eat pie today? And it's a simple word, but it has a powerful impact. And so basically, you're right on schedule. And this would help me every single day to get up and say, you're going to eat pie. And somebody would say, what does that mean? Today, Stephen, because you're right on schedule, how can you today be physically better today than you were yesterday? Stephen, if you're going to eat pie today, how can you be intellectually better than you were yesterday? Stephen, if you're going to wake up today and eat pie, how can you be emotionally better? And if you're going to be better today, how can you be spiritually better? And every single day, this is what began to help me do that internal work to say, get up, eat pie every single day.
One of the things, or a couple of the things that you had to deal with during that time was overcoming fear of failure and self doubt. Can you address that a bit, please?
Yeah, so the fear of failure and self-doubt, it's so heavy, just in our culture and in life. And for me, something that I had to overcome was like, hey, how do you get up and do it again knowing that what everyone's going to say, or what is everyone going to think, that if you start doing this journey again, or you get up
Hmm.
and you start this business again, you have to think through, like, man, they're going to say, well, why are you going to start again? You failed before. Won't you just do something else? Won't you just go get a job at Walmart? Won't you find another profession to do? Why would you go back and do that same thing again? And so that self-doubt, it weighed on me in the beginning, but it was something that I had to overcome, to know that, listen, what happened to me, I had to learn how to fail forward. And so everything that happened, everything that I was going through, it was something that I began to learn. It says, okay, it happened, and maybe I did not succeed in the way that I thought I should succeed in it, but simply I had to reframe what I called failure. And I think that's powerful even for your audience, is that wherever you are in life, what if you were to change your perspective on what happened to you yesterday? What if you were to change your perspective on, like, how things in life are proceeding for you? Because if you see them as failure, then it's going to create self-doubt. And that's what I had to do for myself. It was looking at those things and saying, this isn't failure. I'm not a failure because of these things. It may have failed, but it simply does not qualify me
Mm,
to be a failure.
that's an excellent point. I think a lot of people deal with that. That's very well put. Anything else you want to share along those lines before we talk about your book?
Yeah, and so even in overcoming that, so what I begin to do is says, okay, well, what if you continue to fail forward? And that there was a story, an article that I had read, and it really helped me even through this time. It was about a professor that had two sets of students, and the professor said, hey, I'm going to split the group up into two groups. One group, I want you to only create one sculpture for the whole semester. Do everything you can to make the perfect sculpture.
Hmm.
And then the second group, he said, hey, I want you to create as many sculptures as you can. I don't care about the quality, I care about the quantity. And at the end of the semester, we're going to judge, and it's going to be a blind judge on which group has the best sculptures. And can you guess which team, one or two, had the better sculpture?
Probably the second one.
And the reason is because for them, they kept iterating on their idea versus that one team that tried to make it perfect the first time. And
Huh.
so that was the model I had to
Wow.
adopt in my life and in my business. It says that, hey, listen, it didn't work. So what? And that's a nugget right there. Something that I had to adapt is the so what mindset. So what that didn't work? It just means I need to reiterate it again. So what? They said no. Maybe I just need to reiterate it again. Maybe I didn't get the investor that I needed to move this forward. So what? Maybe I need to try again. And so that is what helped me overcome self-doubt, is failing often, failing fast, and creating the so what mindset.
Well, you packed a lot into that. That's a huge message in itself. I thank you for that. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what you have to offer the audience, both in your coaching and your book. We'll be right back.
Carol Graham would like to show you the path from misery to miraculous triumph in her fast-paced memoir, Battered Hope. She relates her determination to succeed as someone who experienced one horrendous nightmare after another. Gang raped and left for dead, loss of a child, husband falsely imprisoned, and cancer. Nothing could break her tenacity or faith. No matter what you face, heartache, loss, suffering, or injustice, Carol will illustrate how she became a victor the same way you can. The secret is to never, ever give up hope. Order your copy at Amazon or batteredhope.blogspot.com.
So, Stephen, could you tell us about your book? I'm intrigued by the title, Right on Schedule.
Yeah, so just to kind of recap, looking back at that dark space in my life and that dark time in my life, it was when this bright light began to shine through. And this was the light that brought me through. And so the book is called You're Right on Schedule. And that concept, it created some mantras in me that I began to walk through, and then said, man, these things are so beneficial to me and to life, that I believe that this journey that I'm in, that I'm on, is not just for me, but it's also for someone else. There was a
Hmm.
writer who said this. He says that we overcome by the word and our testimonies. And I just wanted to make sure that if there was ever someone that was contemplating suicide, or there was a business owner ready to give up on their business, or there was someone that was ready to throw in the towel on their dreams, the book You're Right on Schedule could help them. And these four mantras that I take from my journey could help them know that they're right on schedule. And so in the book, one of the first mantras is to understand that nothing can change your position. And that's so important in life, because I I just have the unction and the belief to know that when you're going through something, that there is a creator. There's someone that has the creative energy that has created us. And because we're created in that image, we have the ability to be creative. And nothing can change your potential or your position. And so a quick thing to kind of even connect to your nothing can change your position. Like, there, what I wrote and how I understood it was like, if you go to the MVA, you ever been to the MVA? It's a dreadful place. I only go if someone is pulling my leg and twisting my arms. Like, it's not a fun place. It's not a fun place. Um, but when you go to the MVA, they do something that's very interesting. They give you a ticket, and you go in and they give you a ticket. And hypothetically, let's say the ticket number is B3, and they give you a ticket that says B3, and but right now they're on A2, and you're looking around. It's like, man, it's all of these people in front of me. Like, there's so much going on. Like, my number will never be called. And that same concept is kind of the same with life.
Mm.
Is that you have been given a calling, you have been given a gift, you have been given a dream, you have been given something that needs to be produced. But because your number hasn't been called yet, many of us will give up on life, and we will just
Right.
quit and walk away. And to be honest, there have been times where I thought about walking out of the MVA, because I'm like, it's crazy to stay in here for 4 hours. But that's the same thing with life, is that nothing can change your position. And you have been given a gift and a number. And just because it hasn't been called yet, it doesn't mean that it won't be called, because you're right on schedule. And so that was the first mantra, understanding that nothing can change your position. So the next part of that mantra that I begin to walk through is that you have to play the long game. You have to play the long game. That's so important for me, even in my journey, is because one thing that I learned in my journey is that my dad used to say this all the time, and I'll try to clean it up in the best way how he said it to me. But he said that if you give a wino, if you give an alcoholic $1 million, he's the same person. He just has more resources to be that same person.
Mhm.
And now let me make that make sense. So basically, what that is saying is that in life, because you're right on schedule, sometimes you have to play the long game so that your character can catch up to the potential that you have inside of you. And so if you give an immature person riches and fame and these things, they're still the same person. They just have more resources to be that same person. And so what I had to learn in my journey is that because I had such a great gift and I was actually supposed to speak to the nation and help people take their next step and make their next step their best step, there were some character things that needed to be developed in me so that I can mature to the place that I needed to be to handle what was in front of me. And given those things too soon or too fast, it could truly cause me to literally kill myself. And even if you look at statistics, statistics show that most people who hit the lottery are broke within
Right.
4 to 5 years
Right.
after winning the lottery. And it's because you gave a person that didn't mature to the level they needed to handle what they received. And so
Wow.
that's why I'm right on schedule, because it's in playing the long game. And I'll just introduce this part. God knew what he needed from me to get what he put in me out of me.
I like that. Say that again.
God knew what it took to get out of me what he put in me. Then the next one is a funny one. It's a funny one. The next one is I'm right on schedule because it's all in the mix. And the funny story I like to share with this one is, like, I'm a neat eater. Do you know what a neat eater is? Do I have any listeners know what a neat eater is? So I am a type of person. I like my food, like on Thanksgiving. I'm the person who has a sectional plate.
Oh, okay. Right. Gotcha.
I am a meat eater. I need to see string beans here, string beans here, macaroni and cheese here, chicken here, ham here. Like, if my food begins to touch, I throw it away. I don't eat it. I will not eat fried chicken. I know some people like this fried chicken with the green juice touching. That is one of the most disgusting things to me in the world. That is just nasty. And that was the concept that I began to see in this, where because I was such a neat eater, that same concept began to apply to certain areas of my life. And here's how I'll make it all make sense: is that in life is it's blended together. And so there are days when you have pain, and there are also days when you have joy, and there's also days when you have love, and there's also days when you have rejection. And there's another writer, he says this, that for everything there is a time and a season for everything under the earth. And so in that, in understanding that all things are working together, all things are in the mix, and life isn't about being a neat eater, but life is really like a good pot of spaghetti. It's all mixed together. And when you can see it all mixed together, then you can understand that you're right on schedule. But if you only see life as separated and isolated, then when you go through pain, you'll never be able to see promise. And then when you
Hmm.
go through times of lack, you'll never get to see love. And so, but when you can see life as spaghetti, you can see it's all working together and it's all in the mix because you're right on schedule. And the final piece in the mantra, even in you're right on schedule, it was the combination of all of these together. Because once you know that nothing can change your position, and when you know that you're playing the long game, and when you know that it's in the mix, this is when I was able to turn what was a messy situation into a message. And that's so important in life, when you can look back and says, man, it was rough, it was hard, I wanted to quit, I wanted to give up. But I now, looking back at that, can take what most people would see as messy, but now I see it as a message. And so that's what I do now, even in my coaching business, in life, in mentoring. I want to be able to take what others may see as messy and find the message in it to help someone. Because I truly believe every person that is created was created to solve a problem, but many times we can't solve the problem because we only see the mess. But when you can see the message in the mess, you become the answer that the world has been waiting for.
I think it's also getting out of a self-pity mode as well, because a lot of people that you're describing have to get out of that first, correct?
Correct. And that's so true. That's so true. Because, and I, it's sad to say, but it's the reality is that some of us would love to, would really, really love to just stay in the victim mode, because
Right,
the victim mode is the mode where we almost feel empowered. But when
right.
you come out of the victim mode, you can empower someone else.
Very good. Very well stated. So tell us about your coaching.
Yeah. And so in the coaching, like something that I've really been working towards is it's one, the first part of it is under helping people understand that they're right on schedule. But something that I'm super, super excited to even launch now in my coaching program is that now I am helping coaches, authors, and leaders take their message and turn it into a bestseller, and take that and turn it into a thriving business with just one book. And so I'm excited even to be in the bestseller category. And so I had the privilege and honor to become a bestseller in 3 different categories. And so now my desire and my goal in my coaching business is that I help other people take their mess and turn it into a message. But that message that you have, I promise you, it's a bestseller if we can just take it from a messy situation and take it and put it in black and white and turn it into a message. And so that's what I do in my coaching business, letting people know that they're right on schedule. So still move forward and take that mess and turn it into a message.
And do you do this online?
Yep. So I do it on online, and I do it also in person where I have a few in-person masterminds and meetups where I meet people, and I'm actually working on a challenge right now where I really want people to that are excited about writing or want to write, because did you know that 85% of Americans want to write a book, but actually only 3% actually do?
Oh, I believe it.
And so that's what I do now. I want to help those people online or in person make that dream a reality.
That is a great challenge for each of us, and I thank you for that. Is there anything else you would like to share with the audience before we say goodbye?
Yeah. So just to kind of recap, I would love to help you make your next step your best step. And so if you're interested in connecting and just moving forward in understanding how you can turn that mess into a message and know that you're right on schedule, listen, you can reach out to me on all your social media platforms. On IG, it is Stephen Foster YNS. And then on Facebook, it's Stephen Foster, Your Next Step. And so I would love to connect with you and just see how we can move forward and making that message a bestseller and turn it into a thriving business, because I genuinely believe that you are carrying the answer to someone's problem, and you can make your next step your best step.
Oh my goodness, that's incredible. Thank you for that. I love your passion. I know that the audience has grasped that as well. And all of your links, etc., will be on the page where your interview is. And I know that people will want to connect with you. And I thank you for that. And thank you, Stephen, for sharing on Never Ever Give Up Hope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Never Ever Give Up Hope, featuring Carol Graham. Did you know that most people succeed because they are determined to? Quitting was never an option. Carol loves your comments and will respond to each one. So please subscribe and review this podcast. A rating of 5 stars would be outstanding and appreciated. Remember, if you are still here, there is always hope.